The kid didn't look nervous. That was the first thing Sammy Davis Jr. noticed from the wings of the Apollo Theater. Most people who stepped onto that stage for amateur night carried their fear like a weight. You could see it in their shoulders, in the way they gripped the microphone, in the darting eyes looking for approval from the crowd. But this kid, 17, maybe 18 years old, walked out like he owned the place. Skinny, all elbows and angles in a suit that was too big for him. But he moved with the kind of confidence that made you pay attention. Made you wonder if maybe he knew something you didn't. It was March 1961. Sammy was backstage waiting to go on for his own set. He'd performed at the Apollo dozens of times. It was home. The place where black excellence wasn't just accepted, it was demanded. Where the audience didn't just watch. They participated. They let you know, in real time, whether you were worthy. And they were brutal when you weren't. Sammy watched as the MC introduced the kid. "Ladies and gentlemen, our next performer is making his Apollo debut tonight. All the way from Detroit, Michigan, put your hands together for Michael Barnes." Polite applause. Nothing special. The crowd was waiting to be impressed. The kid, Michael, stood at the microphone. The band behind him started the intro to My Funny Valentine, a standard, safe choice for an amateur. But then Michael opened his mouth, and Sammy stopped moving. The voice that came out of that skinny frame was impossible. Rich, textured, with a vibrato that made the hair on your arms stand up. The kid wasn't just singing the song. He was inhabiting it, living inside every note. Sammy glanced at the stage manager, a woman named Ruth who'd worked at the Apollo for 20 years. "Who is this kid?" Sammy asked. Ruth shrugged. "Nobody. First-timer. Rode a bus for 2 days to get here." "He's not nobody," Sammy said quietly. On stage, Michael was building to the bridge. His eyes were closed now. His whole body was involved in the song. Not in a showy way, in a way that made you believe every word was being discovered in real time. The crowd felt it too. People were leaning forward. The casual conversations had stopped. Even the bartender had stopped pouring drinks. Michael hit the final note and held it. Not showing off. Just letting it ring out, pure and clear. Then silence. 1 beat. 2 beats. And then the Apollo Theater erupted. People were on their feet, shouting, whistling. The kind of response reserved for legends, not first-timers. Michael opened his eyes. For the first time, Sammy saw the vulnerability underneath the confidence. The kid looked shocked, like he couldn't believe this was real. He took a bow and started to walk off stage. That's when Sammy heard it. A voice from the balcony. Loud, clear, cutting through the applause. "Do another one! Show us what else you got!" Other voices joined in. The crowd was hungry now. They wanted more. Michael stopped at the edge of the stage. He looked at the MC. The MC looked at Ruth. Ruth looked at Sammy. This wasn't how amateur night worked. You got one song. That was the rule. You did your song. You got your response. You left the stage. But the crowd was chanting now. "One more! One more!" Michael's eyes found Sammy in the wings. Even from 30 feet away, Sammy could read the question on the kid's face. What do I do? Sammy made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He walked onto the stage. The crowd went wild. Sammy Davis Jr. was a god at the Apollo. He'd been performing since he was 3 years old. He was part of the Rat Pack. He'd starred in movies, recorded hit albums, danced with Eleanor Powell. He was royalty. And he was walking onto the stage during amateur night. The MC handed Sammy a microphone, confused but smart enough to let it play out. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sammy said, his voice cutting through the noise. "I was backstage getting ready for my set, and I heard something that stopped me in my tracks." The crowd settled, listening. "I heard a voice that reminded me why I fell in love with music in the first place," A voice that made me remember what it feels like to hear something real, something honest, something that doesn't come along every day. He turned to Michael, who looked like he might pass out. "Young man, what's your name?" "Michael." "Michael Barnes, sir." "Michael, how long have you been singing?" "My whole life, sir. But professionally? This is my first real show." Sammy nodded. "Your first real show? At the Apollo Theater? And you just brought down the house." The crowd applauded. Michael's hands were shaking. "Now, these folks want to hear you sing another song," Sammy continued. "And I'll be honest with you, Michael, that's not usually how this works. Amateur night has rules. One song. That's it." Michael nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. "But," Sammy said, "I'm going to make you an offer, and you can say no if you want. No pressure." He gestured to the band. They looked confused but attentive. "I was about to come out here and sing 'The Lady is a Tramp.' You know that song?" "Yes, sir, I know it." "Good. Here's my offer. We sing it together. Right now. You and me. A duet. In front of all these people. In front of this Apollo crowd, which, as you're learning, is the toughest audience in the world," the crowd murmured. This was unprecedented. "But I need to warn you," Sammy continued. "If you say yes, I'm not going to go easy on you. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to push you. I'm going to see what you're really made of. Because singing by yourself is one thing. Singing with someone else, someone who's going to test you, that's different. That's when you find out if you really have it." Sammy stepped closer to Michael. "So what do you say, kid? You want to dance with the devil?" Michael looked at Sammy, at the crowd, at the band. His voice was quiet but steady. "Yes, sir, I want to." Sammy smiled. "All right then, let's give these people a show." He turned to the band. "The Lady is a Tramp. Medium tempo. And fellas, don't hold back. Let's see what this kid can do." The band kicked in. Piano, bass, drums, horns. The Apollo House Band was legendary, and they played like they had something to prove. Sammy started the song. His voice was smooth, effortless. He made it look easy because he'd been doing it for 40 years. "She gets too hungry for dinner at 8. Then he pointed at Michael. "Your turn." Michael came in on the next line. "She likes the theater and never comes late." Their voices blended. Not perfectly. Michael's technique was raw compared to Sammy's polish, but there was something electric about the contrast. Sammy started to move, not dancing exactly, but inhabiting the rhythm, making the song physical. Michael watched and followed. Tentative at first, then bolder. They went back and forth, trading lines. And then Sammy did something unexpected. He changed the key. Right in the middle of the song. Jumped it up a fourth. Michael's eyes went wide. He had a split second to adjust. To find the new note. To not fall flat on his face in front of 500 people. He found it. The crowd roared. Sammy grinned. Now they were playing. He started improvising, adding runs, changing rhythms, throwing curveballs. And Michael kept up. Not perfectly. He missed a few notes. His timing was off in places. But he didn't quit. He stayed in the pocket. He matched Sammy's energy. They hit the bridge together, their voices intertwining. And for a moment the age difference disappeared. The experience gap disappeared. It was just two singers, locked in, pushing each other. The band was cooking now. The drummer was grinning. The pianist was throwing in flourishes. They could feel it too. That rare thing that happens when musicians stop performing and start communing. Sammy and Michael reached the final chorus. Instead of trading lines, they sang it together. In harmony. Sammy on the lower part, Michael on the higher. And on the last note, Sammy did something that would be talked about for years. He stepped back. Physically stepped away from the microphone and gestured to Michael. "This is yours. Take it." Michael stood alone at the center of the stage. The band held the chord, waiting. And Michael sang. He took that final note, and he owned it. He let it build. Let it swell. Let it fill every corner of the Apollo Theater. It wasn't the most technically perfect note, but it was fearless. It was a 17-year-old kid from Detroit refusing to be afraid, refusing to play it safe. When it finally ended, the silence lasted for a heartbeat. Then the place exploded. People were on their feet, screaming, stomping. The balcony was shaking. Michael stood there, stunned. Tears were streaming down his face. Sammy walked over and pulled him into a hug. In Michael's ear, he whispered something that only the two of them could hear. "You've got it, kid. Don't let anyone tell you different. You've got the thing that matters." When they pulled apart, Sammy kept his hand on Michael's shoulder. He spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, remember this name. Michael Barnes. Because you're going to be hearing a lot more of it." The crowd roared its approval. Sammy handed his microphone to Michael and walked off stage. Backstage, Ruth was staring at Sammy like he'd lost his mind. "What the hell was that?" she asked. Sammy was lighting a cigarette, his hands steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through him. "That was me seeing myself at 17, he said quietly. "What do you mean? You know how I got my start?" Sammy asked. "I was 3 years old, performing with my father and uncle. We were doing vaudeville. And one night, Bill, Bojangles Robinson, was in the audience. You know what he did?" Ruth shook her head. "He came backstage after the show, and he told my father, 'That kid's got something. Don't let the world take it from him.' Then he showed me some steps, spent an hour teaching me. He didn't have to do that. He was Bill Bojangles Robinson, but he did it anyway." Sammy took a drag of his cigarette. "That kid out there, he's got what I had. What Bill saw in me. That thing you can't teach. And if I didn't stop and help him, if I just let him have his one song and disappear, I'd be doing to him what people tried to do to me. What's that? Let talent die from lack of attention." Michael Barnes stood on the stage for another 10 minutes, accepting the applause, talking to people who rushed forward to shake his hand. When he finally made it backstage, Sammy was waiting. "Mr. Davis, Sammy held up a hand. "First, call me Sammy. Mr. Davis is my father. Second, you did good out there. I made mistakes." "Of course you did. You're 17. But you know what you didn't do? You didn't freeze. You didn't play it safe. When I changed the key on you, you could have dropped out, let me carry it. But you didn't. You rose up. That's the sign." "The sign of what?" "Of someone who belongs on stage." Sammy reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. "This is my manager's number. I want you to call him tomorrow. Tell him Sammy sent you. He's going to set you up with some people, voice coaches, arrangers, people who can help you develop what you've got." Michael stared at the card like it was made of gold. "I can't. I don't have money for..." "It's handled," Sammy said. "Consider it an investment. In 30 years, when you're the one on stage, and you see some scared kid with a dream, I want you to remember tonight, and I want you to do for them what I did for you." "I will," Michael said, his voice choked. "I promise." Sammy smiled. "Good. Now get out of here before I change my mind." Michael started to leave, then stopped. "Sammy?" "Yeah? Why did you do this? Why me?" Sammy was quiet for a moment. "Because 30 years ago, someone did it for me, and 30 years before that, someone did it for him. That's how this works, kid. We take care of each other. We pass it down. We make sure the good ones don't get lost." He put his hand on Michael's shoulder one more time. "You're one of the good ones, Michael Barnes, don't forget that, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise." Michael Barnes never became a household name, but he had a solid career. He recorded 4 albums. He performed in clubs across the country. He made a living doing what he loved. And in 1989, when he was teaching voice at a community college in Chicago, a 15-year-old girl with no money and a broken home auditioned for him. She sang one song, off-key in places, rough around the edges. But she had something. Michael saw it immediately. After she finished, instead of thanking her and moving on to the next audition, Michael did something unexpected. He invited her to sing a duet with him. Right there, in front of everyone. And during that duet, he challenged her, pushed her, made her reach for something she didn't know she had. When it was over, he gave her his card. "I'm going to teach you," he said. "For free, once a week, for as long as it takes, because someone did the same for me once, and this is how we pay it back." The girl's name was Jennifer Williams. She eventually became a music teacher herself. And the cycle continued.